moves into combat and attacks me. He nets a treasure and then casts Underworld Breach. Welcome to Cardboard Content, where we aim to develop our skills and grow the competitive Commander community. Hey guys, it's me, Benedict. Thank you for joining us here on the final round of Darkside Derby. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, I have all our other games from this event linked down below. Also down below, the full streamed event. Check that out also. If you've already seen it, just throw it out in the background. I need some watch hours anyway. Without further ado, here's our game. Starting in the upper left-hand corner, we have Sergio on Rogsi-Atraxa, starting hand of 5. Then we have Tyler playing Atraxa, starting hand of 7. James playing Malcolm Vial-hashaton, starting hand of 6. Then we have me with Vial-hashaton, starting hand of 7. Sergio puts a Blood Crypt into play tapped into his commander Rogak and passes to Tyler. Tyler plays Mana Confluence, Chrome Mox, imprinting Pull from Eternity, and then casting a Polywog Prodigy. We move on to James's turn. He plays City of Traders, Mox Diamond, and then a turn 1 Rhystic Study. I play Misty Rainforest on my turn, then pass to Sergio. On Sergio's second turn, he plays Underground Sea into a Dark Ritual, triggers Rhystic Study, and that gets Mental Misstep. We pass to Tyler's turn. Tyler casts Lotho, triggers Rhystic Study, Tyler pays, Polywog Prodigy evolves. Then Tyler moves into combat and attacks Sergio for 2. On James's turn, he casts Talisman of Dominance, then plays Underground Sea, then casts his commander Malcolm. On James's end step, I put in a Undercity Sewers Surveil and keep the card on top. We move on to my turn. I shock in a Godless Shrine, then cast my commander Vial-hashaton. Trigger Rhystic Study, James draws. We move back to Sergio. He plays a Flooded Strand, tutors up a Watery Grave and shocks it in, then casts Steel Enchantment, targeting Rhystic Study and triggering Rhystic Study. James counters by sacrificing his commander and casting Flare of Denial. We move on to Tyler's turn. Tyler plays Cavern of Souls, then casts the One Ring, triggers Rhystic Study, and James draws again. Tyler moves to combat and attacks James and Sergio. We move on to James's turn and he casts Animate Dead, targeting his Malcolm. We move on to my turn. I play Cephalid Coliseum, then cast Frantic Search, triggering Rhystic Study. James draws. I discard a Wishclaw Talisman and a Shroom. Trigger Vial-hashaton. I pay 3, bring back the Shroom, and the Shroom brings back Wishclaw Talisman. I pass the turn to Sergio. On Sergio's turn, he casts Lion's Eye, triggers Rhystic, and Polywog. They both draw. Then Sergio casts Wheel of Fortune, triggers Lotho, and then passes turn to Tyler. Tyler plays and cracks a Flooded Strand to put in a Scrubland into play. Tyler activates the One Ring, then casts Grand Abolisher. Sergio responds with a Force Will, launching a Chain of Vapor and triggering Rhystic Study. Grand Abolisher gets countered, then Tyler casts Lotus Petal, triggering Lotho and Rhystic Study. Then Tyler casts 6, triggering Rhystic Study again. He pays. Then Tyler casts Noble Hierarch. He also pays for that Rhystic Study trigger. Then moves into combat and attacks Sergio and James. Then passes turn. On James' turn, he plays Mana Confluence, moves into combat and attacks me. He nets a treasure and then casts Underworld Breach. Tyler responds back with Silence, triggering Rhystic Study and paying for it, and James draws. Silence resolves and Underworld Breach resolves. Then James moves to clean up and passes his turn. On my turn, I play Tundra, then cast my own Steel Enchantment, targeting Rhystic Study and triggering Rhystic Study. James responds back with a Red Elemental Blast, triggering Polywog Prodigy and countering Steel Enchantment. Then I cast Soul Ring, triggering Polywog, Rhystic Study, and Lotho. I pass turn to Sergio. Sergio plays Wooded Foothills, fetches for a bad land, and then passes turn to Tyler. Tyler takes damage for the One Ring, activates the One Ring, draws 3, attacks with 6, gets a Shifting Woodland, boosts Sergio and Thassa's Oracle milled into the graveyard, and he returns a shifting woodland to his hand. Tyler recasts Grand Abolisher, triggering Rhystic Study. James responds back with Force of Will, pitching Curiosity. Tyler responds back with Pact of Negation, triggering Lotho and Rhystic Study. Sergio responds back with Pyroblast, triggering both Polywog and Rhystic Study. Grand Abolisher gets countered, and then Tyler recasts Grand Abolisher using 6's ability and pitching Shifting Woodland. Triggers Rhystic Study again. James draws. Sergio responds by casting Opposition Agent. Triggers Rhystic Study and Lotho. Then James casts Deadly Rollick, targeting 6. Grand Abolisher resolves. Then Tyler casts Food Chain. Triggers Rhystic Study. James draws. Sacks his Noble Hierarch to Food Chain. Then casts Birds of Paradise. James draws again. Sacks Lotho. Then casts Mockingbird. Triggers Rhystic Study again. Sacrifices both birds to Food Chain to get more mana, and then casts his commander Atraxa. Triggers Rhystic Study again. Atraxa gets Tyler a Gaze Cradle, Soul Ring, Endurance, and an Ad Nauseum. Tyler plays Gaze Cradle, then casts Endurance, triggers Rhystic Study again. Endurance resolves. James shuffles his graveyard back to the bottom of his deck, then activates Food Chain again, sacrificing Endurance. Then Tyler casts Soul Ring, triggers Rhystic Study again, then casts Ad Nauseum, triggers Rhystic Study once more. Tyler gets a handful of cards and stops at 6 life. Among those cards he got with Ad Nauseum, he finds a Mist Hollow Griffin, with Food Chain, his commander Atraxa, and eventually finding a Bowmaster, and then sacks and then recasts Mist Hollow Griffin. With every draw, Tyler pings James's commander, Malcolm, then eventually James, then being able to infinitely sack Mist Hollow Griffin to Food Chain to get infinite creature mana, which eventually helps him find a Walking Ballista to mow down the table. Good job, Tyler. Kudos to you again, Tyler, for winning that game. I guess if you cast Grand Abolisher at least 3 times, you should win the game. End game summation. Sergio, when you cast the Wheel of Fortune, I personally would have sacked the Lion's Eye just to net some more mana and hopefully have more things to do after the wheel. It would probably have set you up more because obviously you had to pass the turn right after you casted the wheel. Mental Misstep is a very opportunistic card. Obviously, Dark Ritual will ramp up Sergio, but I don't know if it was that early in the game that would have won him the game. Basically, just feel it out and maybe use that Mental Misstep to protect your own spells or something more detrimental than a Dark Ritual. Yes, losing your Rhystic Study is super spooky, but then losing your commander is also not good, especially your deck where its pivotal part. You did have the Reanimate spell, but obviously you could have used that to reanimate your Glinthorn if it got countered on your next turn. You could have had multiple counter spells on your turn, and I would have tried to go for it when you did cast that Underworld Breach, knowing such a demanding board presence with your opponent that's right before you. Tyler had a very powerful board state, and it was spooky, especially me having a tutor on my board as well. I could have made an attempt also. Speaking of making attempts, I should have went for it on my turn as well. I know I had a Animate Dead in my hand. All I needed to do was tutor up one of my 2 combo pieces, either a Meat Hook Massacre or a Tiny Bones joins up, and I would have had a win attempt on my turn with counter backup. If you enjoyed this event, we have another event coming up. Darkside Las Vegas MagicCon Hype. It is a Top Deck Championship series. It will be held at Darkside Games on May 31st, 12 p.m. Entry is only $15. Rounds will be based on attendance. First place will get a weekend pass to Las Vegas MagicCon and $50 store credit. Second through fourth will also receive premium passes. And if you would like to register for the event, which is only $15, you could head to topdeck.gg or you can check out the links down below. Also down below is my social medias and a way to support the channel like these cool kids. And now a shout out to the legends making this possible, my amazing patrons. Starting off with our content consumers, Big Yoda, Marcus, Dylan, Troy, Rodrigo, and Gwendolyn. Moving on to our tier 3 cardboard cutouts, we have Wong, Matt, Albert, and Joyner. Thank you all for your continued support. If you'd also like to support the channel, please head to patreon.com/cardboardcontent. See you next time for more content.